Our doctrine is very clear that we will not be the first to use nuclear weapons. If somebody uses a nuclear weapon against us, we have a triad which is totally operational. The SSBN being in the sea is just a part of that. It's a way of ensuring our minimum deterrence and a way of ensuring a second strike capability. The SSBN, the third leg, is definitely the safest weapon to be carried. All your land-based assets are destroyed. You still have the ability to hit back and hit back hard. When we see our neighbors or our adversaries improving their warheads, so you have to change accordingly. Otherwise, you'd be left behind. It's a very difficult thing to say we will absorb a first strike and then hit back. But that is where we say we stand. Even after we hit once, we should have adequate to hit back. And our thing is massive to inflict unacceptable damage. US is modernizing, China is modernizing, India has to modernize. Pakistan says it's only India, so they modernize. Well, good luck to them if they have the money to do that and not eat food. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were two examples. That's the only time nuclear weapons can be used. So I don't think we need to match weapon for weapon. No country in the world can absorb even one or two nuclear warheads of the type we are talking of today. So I guess as long as we have a credible minimum the way we feel it is credible, and we are in a position to absorb a strike and hit back, I think we are okay. If there are two boxers and a guy knows that if I hit this guy, he's going to hit me back very, very hard. The point is, it is our strong nuclear arsenal and a strong, credible second strike capability is what will prevent Pakistan from using nuclear weapons against us.
A new SIPRI report has sparked a major debate over India's nuclear posture, claiming that New Delhi may have sort of deployed nuclear warheads on delivery systems for the first time, and that too during peacetime. Is this a historic strategic shift? Joining us today is Lt Gen Amit Sharma, former Commander-in-Chief of India's Strategic Forces Command, to decode what the report really means for India's deterrence strategy. Welcome to the show, sir. Welcome to Access Podcast. My question to you is simple. Is this a major shift for India's deterrence policy?
Thank you so much for getting me here. And I think we started off with the latest and a very interesting question. You know, in the Indian nuclear doctrine, the three major pillars of the doctrine were: one is no first use, credible minimum deterrence, and a response to any nuclear attack will be massive to inflict unacceptable damage. And we've been saying this from day one. We're saying this because we truly believe that nuclear weapons are not for fighting, they're weapons of deterrence. And that is why the aim of India's nuclear arsenal is to deter anybody, I repeat the word anybody, not our neighbors or somebody, from using nuclear weapons against us. Now, this SIPRI report, which has just come in, it's more sensational, I would say. Yes, if they said 12 nuclear warheads have been deployed. The Prime Minister, a couple of months back, mentioned about the Arihant going on its first operational patrol. Now, the fact is, if an SSBN is going on an operational patrol, it has to be armed with nuclear weapons. So all that has happened is that the SSBN has gone on patrol, which is a very open thing. The PM of India has said it. And it is carrying 12 warheads. So that's about it. So it does not indicate a change in our thought process or a posture at all.
No change in posture, but the fact that now we have in peacetime 12 nuclear. So, okay, let's just circle back a little bit. What does this actually mean that you have 12 nuclear warheads in position? You never had this before.
No, it's a question of improvement as each day goes on, because this is the first time our SSBN has been on an operational patrol. And like I said, an operational patrol means that the SSBN is totally armed. Now, how does it make a difference? The point is that our doctrine is very clear that we will not be the first to use nuclear weapons. However, we maintain a credible minimum deterrence. And I feel this is only part of our deterrence, that if somebody uses a nuclear weapon against us, we have a triad which is totally operational. And the SSBN being in the sea is just a part of that. It's a way of ensuring our minimum deterrence and a way of ensuring a second strike capability.
What does it change as far as our second strike capability is concerned?
Well, it enhances our second strike capability because, as you realize, that the SSB and the third leg is definitely the safest weapon to be carried, because the submarine could be lying anywhere under the water. And even if all your land, though it's not possible, if all your land-based assets are destroyed, you still have the ability to hit back and hit back hard. And this is just the first step. We've made it very clear that we're looking for 4 SSBNs. And the second one is better armed with bigger, I would say, longer range missiles and with a massive punch. So even that now, it had been brought out that this is part of now what you call a continuous deterrence at sea. When you have 3 to 4 submarines, it basically 4 is the best. You have one submarine which is on operational patrol, one submarine which is returning, the other is possibly in dry dock, and the fourth is ready to move back again. So this is only a way of ensuring and telling the world that, look, we mean business when it comes to second strike. And we are prepared to absorb a first strike, but still be capable of hitting back hard and very hard. So that's all it means. There is absolutely no change in our nuclear posture.
SIPRI is also, the report says that our number of warheads have gone up from 180 to 190. So in terms of overall the scheme of things, which is more important, from 180 to 190 warheads, or the fact that now we have 12 of them deployed?
I think having a proper triad is more important. And triad means we have now land-based weapons, we have nuclear weapons being carried by the air vectors, and nuclear weapons being carried by the SSBNs. So I think the SSBNs getting operational is definitely more important. Numbers really don't, well, they do make a difference, but from 170 to 180 to 190, see, credible minimum deterrence is a very dynamic posture. We have not said we'll have X number of weapons. Now, you see Pakistan, how many weapons are they've got. And for us, it's not just Pakistan. Look at China, they're touching 500. Now, China says that they have to respond to what the United States is doing or what Russia is doing. Now, Russia has got a couple of thousand, and so has America. Now, unfortunately, it's becomes not a merry-go-round, but China is modernizing to face up to Russia and United States. India is very clear that we want to face up to anybody, but at the moment, the 2 nuclear-armed neighbors are what are threats to us. So we have to maintain a minimum posture, but the numbers have to increase. As China goes up, we'll have to increase plus even modernize. So like the Agni-V was 5,000, now we must go in for longer ranges, and then with MIRVs, and you have to keep on going for hypersonics, going for much more things. So you have to keep on improving your arsenal based on what the other people are getting.
Could you explain the Triad and what you talked about, the Agni-V, the MIRV? How does that help the overall, and even the SSBNs, or even the fact that the 12 warheads are now deployed? What does it mean that they are mated to their carriers, or they're inside the missiles or inside the Agni-V missiles? Can you just explain how this works for the lay people?
See, the Agni-V is a land-based missile, so it's got nothing to do with the SSBN.
Right.
I'll first start with the SSBN. Now, our nuclear doctrine, I think the 4th point or 5th point is that the employment of nuclear weapons is controlled by the political council, headed by the Prime Minister of India.
Right.
That means the decision to launch a nuclear weapon has to be taken by the political council. And that is in black and white. Now, to make sure that you have something left after absorbing a first strike, That is why you need a certain amount of weapons in all domains. A triad means we've got nuclear weapons which are land based, like you got in silos or launchers which are on mobile launchers, static launchers, be what may be, or rail launchers. The second is the air base, which you have the Sukhois and the other aircraft which are capable of carrying nuclear bombs. So that's the second leg. And the third leg of the triad are the SSBN. SSBNs are the nuclear armed, nuclear powered submarines. Now, this is all that has happened. Now, of course, the weapon has to be mated because if a missile has to be carried in a submarine, the warhead and the missile has to be mated. But however, the SSBN captain or anybody cannot fire the weapon unless the codes, etc., clearances are given by whoever is concerned. So, yes, the weapon is mated, it is at sea. However, the safety is still there. The orders have to go from land, the orders have to come in from the political council. The people on the boat have no power to, or they don't have any way of firing the weapon. It cannot be fired. That safety factors are maintained at all times. Yeah. So that's not a problem at all.
India has traditionally maintained a recessed deterrence posture. What does that imply?
I don't think recess is the correct word. We've always maintained a minimum deterrent posture. Now we say what is minimum? It's a very dynamic thing. When we see our neighbors or our adversaries improving their warheads, so you have to change accordingly. Otherwise, you'd be left behind. It's a very dangerous thing to say, a difficult thing to say, we will absorb a first strike and then hit back. But that is what is where we say we stand. Now, if we have to absorb a first strike, that means we have to have a nuclear weapon spread out in such a manner, and the numbers and the quality has to be such that we are not left wanting. That even after we hit once, we should have adequate to hit back. And our thing is massive to inflict unacceptable damage. This is the word. So it's a very dynamic process. As the world keeps changing, like US is modernizing, China is modernizing, India has to modernize. Pakistan says it's only India, so they modernize. Well, good luck to them if they have the money to do that and not eat food.
The deployment, of course, it implies faster response time, greater survivability, and all of that. And that I think the viewer must have understood by now. But it doesn't automatically assume a more aggressive nuclear posture, uh, because that is what some people are saying. Uh, I'd like you to clarify that. Is it about becoming more aggressive or becoming more ready?
I think the latter. We are getting more ready, and we are more now tuned to what we are saying. A response will be massive because we will be capable of responding. And that is why we're not talking of one Arihant, we're talking of at least 3 to 4 more boats with better weapon systems and longer range missiles.
So nothing is fundamentally changed. No first use is still there. Deterrence posture is still there. Can India deploy? Because it's all about deploying our warheads and keeping the no first use uh, policy of ours completely alive. SIPRI specifically notes that India's growing focus on longer range systems able to reach China. Tell us where we stand, where that is concerned.
See, firstly, I must again reiterate what I said earlier that the aim of India's nuclear deterrent is to prevent anybody from using nuclear weapons against us. Today we say it is China and Pakistan, tomorrow it could be anybody else. And therefore, we are not restricting our ranges only to China. And that is my personal opinion, and that's what I feel because in black and white it says deter anyone. Now, if we have the Agni-V, which is, let's say, a range of about 5,000 kilometers, if you want to target China from any end of India, you could do that. So I guess you need that, and when you improve the things, now you want one rocket with or one missile with more warheads. See, to make it more potent. So that should be the next step we should be doing it. So I feel that's how it is. It's a very logical kind of a thing because if the enemy is or your adversary is expanding its arsenal, they're modernizing their arsenal. To maintain that credible minimum deterrent posture, it must be credible unless you have a 5,000 kilometer missile or longer or better weapon with 5, 7, 10, 15 warheads of different kinds. You would not be credible. So that we are not into an arms race. If China is touching 500 and we are touching 170, so we are still trying to maintain a balanced posture.
Yeah, but how long can we maintain a balanced posture if China is expanding at the rate that it is?
See, we don't need to match weapon for weapon. That's not required. Uh, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were two examples. That's the only time nuclear weapons can be used, and I think the 15 or 20 kilotons. Now you're talking of megaton weapons. Now you're talking of thermonuclear devices, which are very, very destructive. So I don't think we need to match weapon for weapon. No country in the world can absorb even one or two nuclear warheads of the type we are talking of today. So I guess as long as we have a credible minimum the way we feel it is credible, and we are in a position to absorb a strike and hit back, I think we are okay. We don't have to match numbers for numbers at all. Yeah, technology has to improve. It's an ongoing process.
This SIPRI report comes exactly a year after Operation Sindoor. Tell us what the Operation Sindoor's impact on India's nuclear posture is.
Frankly, first I must profess my ignorance. I have no idea as to what the actual plan, because I know as much as you do. My information.
Sure. What you understand from what the SIPRI report now says, from what we've heard obviously coming out, and Arihant being commissioned and out on the sea, based on that.
Frankly, no, I don't think it should have any effect on India's nuclear posture. Operation Sindoor was purely a conventional action. And we have, it's like you've got to be prepared every day. It's not that today something happens and we start jumping. No, because then we've gone wrong in our preparations. We've been saying from the beginning that we will maintain a triad. It's out in the open. It's all there. So Sindoor, in any case, see, the point is we will never be the first people to use a nuclear weapon.
True.
So we are not really, that way. So if Pakistan, no, we've not pushed Sindoor 3 days, no country used a nuclear weapon in 3 days. I guess.
Right. No, what I actually meant was in terms of calling Pakistan's nuclear bluff every time they would raise the nuclear bogey that we are nuclear armed and therefore don't mess with us. Every time it was a deterrent for India. But we called their nuclear bluff in Operation Sindoor. Secondly, we also hit, and this is obviously not claimed by the government, but there are enough and more people, military experts over the world, who have talked about how India actually hit at least near Pakistan's very sensitive strategic sites.
Firstly, I might be right or wrong, but I personally never use the term nuclear bluff. This is used by everybody, and I find a lot of my colleagues on the TV coming. There's no such thing as a nuclear bluff. The correct word that I as a professional would say is deterrence. If there are two boxers and a guy knows that if I hit this guy, he's going to hit me back very, very hard, I'll be wary of hitting this chap. So that's exactly what is there. Pakistan has been saying, they use tactical nuclear weapon, they'll use X, Y, Z. The point is, it is our strong nuclear arsenal and a strong, credible second strike capability is what will prevent Pakistan from using nuclear weapons against us. There's no such thing as a bluff. The bluff is, yes, we will use nuclear weapons. Now, the point is, if you use nuclear weapons, it's fine. That was okay if we did not have nuclear weapons. Today, we have a fairly strong nuclear arsenal. As far as Pakistan is concerned, we are very, very strong. So it is our strength that is deterring him from using nuclear weapons. And second down to see, I heard a lot on television that, the airbase near Rawalpindi or somewhere was hit and we aimed for it. I don't think we are aiming for his nuclear weapons, etc., because that doesn't make sense. If we hit something, then I guess if they're deployed or if they're kept their nuclear weapons in the close vicinity of a very major airfield, I think that was the wrong choice to keep the nuclear weapons. But personally, I don't think we were aiming for the nuclear weapons. No, we must have been aiming for an airfield and possibly the impression that there was an ammunition dump close by, which the conventional weapons are kept close by. So possibly we were aiming for that. And if there were nuclear weapons, which nobody's quite sure, then it must have been only by chance. But I don't think we were aiming for the nuclear. No, no, I don't think we were doing that.
When India started its nuclear journey, was Pakistan on mind? Was China on mind? Or was it more of the larger global order after we got independence? And
See, 1947, when we got our independence, we had people like Dr. Homi Bhabha, who understood and realized the power of the atom. And at that stage, we were wanting to use this power for peaceful purposes. Basically, our journey started from using nuclear power for peace. And it was commented much later by one of the Japanese, I forget his name, it's difficult to announce, that he commented India and he commended India on the peaceful use of nuclear energy. See, 1947, and we had seen the effects on Hiroshima and Nagasaki 2 years earlier. So that was very, very fresh in our minds. And we realized that nuclear weapons bring devastation and destruction and not for fighting. So we started off our first Atomic Energy Act was signed in, I think, 1948, and it was modified again in 1962. But it was for peaceful purposes. A lot have been said with Dr. Homi Bhabha. Dr. Homi Bhabha felt that, yes, while we were planning for peace, the same technology we should also be capable of using as a strategic for strategic uses when required. So that was it. And statements had been made that everything is for peaceful purposes. Then what happened? See, 49, China was founded. In 62, we had a fight with China. We didn't fare too well. 64, China went nuclear. Now, 47, America dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, 45. 1949, Russia went nuclear. 52, UK went nuclear. And after that, 62 was followed by France, and that was it. The 5 countries came on. India went in for an explosion in 1974.
yeah.
See, but that was purely for peaceful purposes. When China went nuclear in 1972, Pakistan again was too early to go nuclear, but Pakistan, immediately after the 1971 war, even before Bhutto came for the peace talks, in January 72, if I remember correctly, he had the famous conference in Multan. And that is when he said that, look, we'll eat grass, but we must get a nuclear weapon. So they started doing that. And it was around the mid-80s, 87 to be what certain papers says, that Pakistan went in for a nuclear explosion at the Lucknow ranges in China. Now, at the same time, the American intervention in Afghanistan, their interests were there. When Pakistan was becoming nuclear, America looked the other way. You had the Pressler Amendment, the Samington Amendments, etc. The president waved off everything and they looked the other way when Pakistan was going nuclear. So we felt that by the end of 80s or early 90s, Pakistan had a rudimentary nuclear weapon. And that is the time we said it's time we got our things going. So that is how it took us time. See, 74 to 98 is not too long, is what, 24 years, right? Yeah. So I think there were 3 things that were involved. One thing, 74, weapon is fine, but then you needed much more data, you needed much more knowledge to go in for proper nuclear arsenal. One detonation is not good enough. So one, we needed more time for the scientific acumen of the country to come to it. Secondly, after 74, there were many sanctions on India. And was India prepared to absorb the sanctions at that early stage or not? Possibly that was another reason. We said, fine, let's keep it going for some time. And third was the strategic reason when we realized that Pakistan had a nuclear weapon by 98 and we had the wherewithal and then we could absorb the shock of sanctions, etc. We went nuclear. And it was Pakistan went in nuclear, 2 or 3 weeks later? Now, come on. Yeah. You don't dig those deep tunnels in 2 weeks' time. Everything was ready. Everything was there. It was just that they did it after that.
Why would the US look the other way? And this is for our viewers. When Pakistan was going nuclear and they knew about it.
The US was using Pakistan for their troops in Afghanistan.
And so just for that reason?
Yeah, they had... So US
but they would have to know that Pakistan being Pakistan... And that's how most of the proliferation that we know of has happened from Pakistan.
No, but that's fine. It's the interests of the country come first. So that's what it is. Now today there is no nuclear treaty which is functional. You see what
Yeah,
happened. What happened
the
with the
one with
NPT a
Russia.
couple of
Yeah.
days back. See, Russia fizzled out. Now even the NPT has actually fizzled out totally. And the reason is, I'd written much earlier also, that it is the nuclear weapon powers which have indulged in proliferation. United States looked the other way when Pakistan was nuclearizing for their own interests in Afghanistan. China helped Pakistan openly. France and UK helped Israel when it was coming up. Russia, as Russia, no, but as USSR, Russia had helped China, and to some extent even India had taken for peaceful purposes. But look, the scientific knowledge is similar. So Russia, to my knowledge, has not indulged in as Russia, but the others have all indulged in proliferation, which is against the NPT. So that's how it is. So I guess
And which is why NPT is where it is today.
no NPT where it is today, and today the atomic clock is closest to midnight at 85 seconds. So that's the reason for it. It started with I think 7 minutes when it started. The furthest was 17 minutes in 1991 when USSR with the Cold War finished, and today it's 85 seconds. So that's the closest to midnight.
Just looking back, there were many stories about India's nuclear program, how scientists, they sort of, used decoys to move around. They kept changing appearances also. There was things were very compartmentalized. Any instance that you would be able to that stuck with you about the development of India's nuclear weapon before 1998 when we were gearing up for it? How strong was the security architecture at that time?
Frankly, if all this was such a secret, I'm not aware of it, and whatever little I know, I don't think I'd be the right guy to speak on it. But yeah, 98 when the blast took place, you've seen this movie Parmanu also.
Yes.
And I think that's fairly well done because 98, this happened in Pokhran. I was a colonel that time, but 98, I was commanding my regiment in the deserts, which is not too far from Pokhran, and a couple of my troops had also gone into cordon off that area. We didn't know what was happening, but a day before that, we were there. And incidentally, now that you take me back, when Prime Minister Vajpayee visited the site, and the movie Parmanu, you've got his last actual photographs are there. My driver and my gypsy was used by the Prime Minister to go to that site. So that photograph is also there. Little did I realize that I'd end up, being part of the nuclear journey myself. So where did we start off from now? Yeah, things were hidden, things were classified. Obviously, you could not, get things in the open because the world would be ready to jump on you and stop all aid, etc., etc. But frankly, specific incidents as far as that, I would not know. But see, a controversy came up a little later because the explosions that were there in 98 were 5 explosions, point 0.2, point 0.3, 15 kilotons, point 0.3, point 0.5, 15, and 45 kilo thermonuclear device. Later, it came out that whether the 45 thermonuclear device was actually there or not there, was it there? My firm belief is, after having commanded the nuclear forces for over 2 years, and I was very fortunate to speak to two of the people who were part of the 1998. One was President Abdul Kalam, who was their DRDO, and Dr. Chidambaram. Dr. Chidambaram, I had the privilege of serving with him for nearly about 4 years, and we've discussed this many times. Uh, President Abdul Kalam, I was very fortunate that after he retired, he was staying in Luton's Delhi, and I took an appointment. I spent an evening with him. And basically, the aim was to invite him to speak to my officers at the SFC. And, very unfortunate that the day I received the letter of acceptance was the day he died. And no, but I discussed this with him. And both Dr. Kalam and Dr. Chidambaram were very clear that it was a 45 kiloton thermonuclear explosion. And the data that we have is good enough for us to make a 200 kiloton thermonuclear bomb. So if these two stalwarts of a country have, said it, I guess, yeah, then I guess we have to go by them.
Nuclear weapons, you talked about both India and Pakistan, of course, testing very soon after us, weeks later. Did those nuclear weapons embolden Pakistan's strategy or the proxy war strategy against India in any way?
I think they did. You see, they did because in the 80s, that was another reason why we went nuclear in the 90s. 80s, Khalistan problem started. And it turned up and later moved on to Kashmir problem. Somehow Pakistan, the psyche has been that, now we are a nuclear weapon power and nobody can touch us. But today, the way I look at it is that for whatever reasons, earlier governments did not respond in a strong manner, which they ought to have done. But now what has happened is that the present government had made it very clear. We started with Uri, the surgical strikes on foot. Then we used aircrafts, and the third we gone for Op Sindoor. And now we are very clear. If something happens, we got to hit them harder. And despite the fact that they have nuclear weapons, we are very clear that our nuclear arsenal is strong enough to deter them from using a nuclear weapon. And I don't think they're such big fools that they want their country to be destroyed by using a nuclear weapon against us and then, expecting us to do nothing. No, I'm sure. I think, you see what happens, two things in credible minimum deterrence. One is the size of your nuclear arsenal. And the second and more important is the demonstrated political will. The political will of the gentlemen who are controlling the arsenal. I think today the political will is very much there. It's been demonstrated over time and again. And our nuclear arsenal now, you see, people are saying that, we already got 12 deployed. This is just the first Arihant, what we call it the S2. Now we're talking about the S3, S4. And 3 more boats will come in. So our strength is increasing. Our Agni-V, our whole series is there. So I think we are a fairly strong nuclear weapon power today. And I don't think Pakistan would be foolish enough to use nuclear weapons against us. And I deliberately use the word foolish.
You commanded the SFC for the longest time. During your tenure as the boss of SFC, what was the single most responsibility that you carried every day? How did the shoulders feel very heavy at that time?
Quite frankly, no, they didn't feel heavy because I'll tell you why. Right from the time you joined the army, when you're a young second lieutenant, I was in the armored corps, so 3 tanks, you were told that, young man, the country, you are leading the advance of the country, so the country depends on you. So that kind of thing, it grows on you as you grow senior. And then I was fortunate to command 21 Corps, which is the Desert Strike Corps, and that again was said that, look, these are the guys to break up Pakistan into 2. But coming down to the nuclear arsenal, shoulders were not heavy at all, but the responsibility was definitely there. I think the biggest responsibility was, how do I absorb a first strike and make sure that I'm in a position to carry out massive retaliation the way I'm expected to do? I think that is what was very difficult, because the point is, you don't know what kind of a first strike you're going to absorb and how will you be in a position to respond back. But I think the way our structure is there and the kind of, you talk to these, here in any case, you see the Executive Council is headed by the National Security Advisor. And the best thing was that anything that struck me, I had an open audience to him, so I could discuss with him. Whatever I wanted could be discussed with him. And technical thing was Dr. Chidambaram. So I guess, my biggest responsibility was to be able to absorb a first strike and be able to retaliate in the desired manner. And I think we are quite confident of doing that. I have no doubt in my mind.
In terms of the command structure, you explained that the command structure for India comes from the political class. There was a political council and then it will happen. But what about Pakistan? Who really controls Pakistan's news?
The Chief of the Army Staff. See, Pakistan...
Right now it's Field Marshal.
See, with this 27th Amendment, people said, my God, he's got more powers, etc. Fine, he's got more powers, no doubt, and he moves with the Prime Minister wherever the Prime Minister is going abroad and you see this gentleman around, fine. But I think the nuclear arsenal has always been controlled by the Pakistani armed forces. Even when there's a civilian government in power, the last word has been of the Pakistani army chief. So the way I look at it is nothing really, on ground, nothing has changed. It's the same.
When you look back and when you look ahead, what was the scariest moment where you thought that we were on the brink? And the next 10 years, 20 years, what is the scariest moment do you think that can be envisaged?
In terms of a nuclear that? frankly, I wouldn't say scariest. That's, as an army guy, one never uses that word, and I don't even feel like this. The fact is that never underestimate your opponent. In fact, give him more than he deserves and prepare accordingly so that you cater for a worst case situation. And in our case, see, there are your command channel. There has to be somebody alive to give orders, to retaliate. Then you must have the wherewithal to retaliate. So I guess the planning has to be done at that stage, that what if the political council is the first to be knocked out in a strike, who is next? So here you have to have a backup and a backup to a backup and a backup to that, because there should be no situation that you've been hit by a nuclear strike from an enemy and there is nobody left to decide as to what to do now. So that is something, which in our case there is a backup and a backup and a backup. Second is you must have adequate weapons available to you to be hit back to whoever the adversary is, and we are planning accordingly. That is why a triad is there. We have, and India is a massive country, so it's not that we got a base here and a base next to Delhi or something like that. No, it's a massive country. We've got bases spread all over the country. And we've got the aircraft, you've got land-based weapons and sea-based weapons. So I guess the situation, and they're all trained people, they're all professionals absolutely who do that, people who are coming and are tried and tested guys. So I don't think a situation is arise. I'm not really worried about that. I think we are fully confident of carrying out the task that's been given to us. Yeah.
When you say that, I just can't help it, because you initially started with saying that technologically we have to become more advanced, we have to invest more. Where do you think, what more can be done for us to be? You said number of warheads is not a criteria. Number of deployed warheads also is not a criteria. Then what is the criteria for this technological advancement?
These are criteria, but that's, I said, not the only criteria, and that's not the end all of things. See, as time goes by, the science development takes place, your structures are changing, like communications are changing. Now you can't have communications which can be broken in or that, you see. So if you have line, then you have to have satellite communications, you've got to have other communications, means of communication, because orders have to be passed to people. So that is there. I think as the time goes on, development and modernization has to take place. Now, when you're talking of a war, you see what you got to have, two things are there. One is that you got to have your missile to hit the other guy, right? You also got to ensure that the other guy does not interfere with your missile so that it doesn't reach them. So now both things have to be catered for. You got to cater for his capabilities of stopping you and see how to beat his capabilities. So it's not purely having a missile of 5,000 or 10,000 kilometer range with 6 warheads coming. No. Now, those missiles can be tampered with. They can be blocked, not by physical force, but they could be diverted to go somebody else. They can be interfered. The command and control systems can be interfered. Science is changing at a very rapid pace. So you've got to be a step ahead in both. One is how do you hit the enemy? And the second is how do you prevent him from stopping your people from hitting your enemy? So I guess you got to keep pace with that, and that's how it goes. Yeah.
Right. And so let me ask you this: what gives you most confidence about India's future as far as nuclear power is concerned?
Confidence that gives me is that we have our feet firmly on Mother Earth. We realize our requirements. We are aware of our weaknesses. We are aware of our strong points. And we are trying our bit to overcome our weaknesses. Our weaknesses are not such that they can't function today. But like I said, as science is changing, as things are improving, you have communications being broken, and you have, satellite imagery coming in, you've got guidance systems, etc. So you've got to keep pace with that. And like I said, you've got to be sure that how your weapon systems are good and how you prevent the enemy from interfering with you doing your task. And what is best is that we realize our weaknesses, and we are trying to work in that manner to overcome our weaknesses, and we know what our tasks are. So how do we complete them? Yeah. We are focused on that.
Basically, you're saying you're not worried at all.
No, I'm not worried at all. Of course, I'm worried all the time. But the worry is not a negative worry. The worry is how do you stay 2 steps ahead of your adversary? That's about it.
Two steps ahead of your adversary, and our people are already working in that direction. So we, at least the civilians, can rest easy.
Yeah, definitely. See, our people are confident. We are not the overconfident varieties. We have
Confident but not overconfident.
we have our feet firmly on Mother Earth, and we know what we are doing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. Thank you so much.